Welcome to Brave Healer Productions. It's time to experience what's possible. So, what if there's something you haven't learned yet about writing that could change everything? Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And today, it's in terms of writing. Here today to help me with this mission are some of the authors of one of our newest books. And this one is called Writing: The Brave Healer's Guide for World Changers. I have to chuckle a little bit because out of all the amazing expert collaborations we have published, and we're going to be celebrating book number 100 in a couple of weeks, you guys. I had this idea, I don't know, less than a year ago. And I'm like, writing, of course. Like, I want to tell people how passionate I am about writing. And we have experts talking about everything from the way you use writing to heal, all the way to today, how to write a screenplay, right? So we have writers writing to make an income, and we have writers writing as a therapeutic tool. And today we're going to be talking to two amazing contributors to this book. Parushka Moodley is a multifaceted writer, editor, and director, passionate about storytelling and healing through creativity and turning dreams into art. Lori Morin is here. She's a best-selling author and a book doula, helping people turn their personal stories into a life-changing book. I'm excited to have you both here today. I want to start with you, Lori. Tell me a little bit about what writing has meant to you in your life in general.
I would have to say that writing actually changed my life. I grew up as a shy kid. I didn't have many friends. I read a lot, and writing is the way I processed my feelings. It's actually, I tell my students sometimes, writing is how I know what I think. Often don't know it until I write it down. And sometimes I'm surprised by what comes out. So it has literally changed the trajectory of my life. Even when I wasn't writing as a profession, I was always writing for myself.
I would have said the exact same thing. So thank you for
Mhm.
kicking this off so brilliantly with that. And I think most all of you who said yes to this project would say something very similar. Y'all are going to really enjoy this interview series and kind of getting underneath the why for everybody. But that thing that Lori said is such a common theme. This changed things for me. I love what you said about it's I can see what I think. I've often said the same thing. Like, I write
Mhm.
it on a notebook and then it's out of my head. And all of a
Mhm.
sudden I'm looking at that notebook going, do I think that? Like, whoa, right?
Right.
What else do you want
Mhm.
to tell people about that piece of it? I think of it as an awareness tool.
It is an awareness tool, and it helps you to go deeper. We have a lot of feelings, that are on the surface. And when you start writing about them, you get to what's behind the feelings. And, oh, that's why I feel that way. This is what happened in my life that led me to feel like I'm alone in the world. Now I understand. So for me, it's a way of getting into your soul. Get out of your head, even get out of your feelings, get into your soul.
What would you tell somebody who is afraid of other people reading those emotions?
Burn it.
That's
I
the
have a lot of
easy.
journals. I write in composition notebooks, and I don't, I used to write in fancy journals, velvet covers, and I was afraid to put anything on the page. So I just write in the plainest things I can find. And sometimes I go back because I remember I wrote something that I thought was brilliant at the time and I want to use it. But often I just get rid of them after I've processed it.
I love that tip about the composition notebooks. That's good. That's definitely got a different feel than a leather cover,
Hmm.
beautiful. What? Yeah, it's somehow you have to be really careful about what you write in those or whatever.
Right, right.
Um, all right, so take a minute now to tell us a little bit about the why behind the story you're sharing in this beautiful chapter.
So I wrote this chapter because when I transitioned from just writing for myself to writing for others, I didn't know what I was doing, just to be honest. And I flailed, I floundered, I made it more complicated than it was. And when I finally figured out a process that worked, and I realized how actually simple it is, I wanted to share it with people because I knew so many women. I used to be a life coach and I led retreats, and people would come to the retreats and I'd tell them about my book, and they'd say, "Oh, I've always wanted to write a book too, but I have no idea how to do that." I knew so many women who wanted to write a book. And I wanted to find a way to help them by simplifying the process.
Yes, thank you for that. Because your books, and all of you have a book or probably multiple books inside of you. If you're listening, you have a book, right? We're also sometimes afraid of it not being good enough, but that we hope that as you listen to this, you'll realize that it's already good enough because it's yours, right? And there's people that can help you, like Lori, to move it out of you in a really amazing way that you're proud of, and that is something others will read and be changed by. That's big potato stuff to me. What else do you want to say to everyone about that, Lori?
I think don't be too afraid at the beginning. Don't worry about whether you're writing a memoir or an essay or a novel, because you won't know until you start putting words on the page. You won't know until it starts taking shape. So, what you need to know is when you're no longer writing for yourself, that you have to change your mindset and get into a reader's mind. So you have to figure out, who am I really writing this for? I'm not writing it for myself anymore. Who am I writing it for? And then try and get into that person's head, really, and figure out what they need to hear. And that will help you to figure out what direction to take your writing.
I love that. I love that tip. So important. Y'all are going to get so many nuggets from this book. I can't wait to share this with the world. Lori, thank you for saying yes to this project and being a part of it.
I'm happy to be in the book. It's going to be an amazing book.
All right, Parishka, tell us first a little bit about what writing has meant to you in your life.
Um, I started writing, well, reading really like young, and my it was always just a safe space for me, where like you can just climb into your imagination and like escape the world. And especially at the time that I was growing up and the situations that I'd been put in, it was really just a comfort. And I just felt that that was the only way I could express myself as well. So through writing, it started off with like little poems, and like I just used to love making things rhyme for some reason. And then and like lyrics and songwriting. And then I realized that I really did love writing. So it just became a place where you could say everything that you couldn't say out loud, and you don't have to share it with anybody. And only through awareness of like, oh, this is not how normal people think, maybe, or like this is not like a thought that I should be having. then you become more self-aware and you realize that maybe that there's something wrong, or maybe this is something you should talk to somebody else about, or but when these thoughts are just floating around in your head, you're sort of unaware of them because you have like 50 million thoughts running through your head a day. But once you get it out, it's just, yeah, it's freeing. And it actually reminds me of Harry Potter when Dumbledore takes the wand and takes his memories out of his head. It's kind of like that when you're getting things out on the page.
Clean it up in there.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love that both of you mentioned reading as a start because, of course, I think people know that the best writers are readers, right? You're getting ideas and all sorts of things. And I remembered those days and which books I had in my hands and that whole experience. I love thinking about that. And I just think it's interesting that you both talked about reading as that first thing. Um, Prushka, you are our author of our screenplay writing chapter, and there's been a lot of interesting um, interest in this particular topic. But you had a story that you shared. Give us a little bit of the why behind the story in your chapter.
Um, well, it had to do with just coming into myself and realizing that I didn't have to water myself down in order to be palatable to an audience. And that took a really long time. Like, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I never saw like representation of myself in the media. And growing up like that, you think you have to like tone yourself down or become like a certain way for people to accept you and find you interesting. And I'm learning that. I did that through screenwriting and just writing and realizing that I wanted to tell my story and make it into something that people could visually see. And that's why it went from just writing to screenwriting. And I've have a love for film and filmmaking as well. So it just naturally collided.
That thing you just said about watering yourself down to fit in. I know that people are going to resonate with that feeling. Do you remember a moment or do you have something you want to share about like what turned the corner for you? Do you remember deciding not to do that? And then what happened next for you?
Well, years of therapy. So, it wasn't just me, but yeah, there wasn't a specific moment. It took a lot of real like inner child shadow work that really like because I didn't even realize I was doing it. I just thought that this is what I was taught and how I'd been raised. So I didn't even know that I had been watering it down. And it actually came up recently for me because I write under a pseudonym. Um, and I'm currently in the process of like writing my first book under my name. And it's one of the scariest things I've ever done. And also because just to see my name on the book, on a cover of a book, it's just I even said to my therapist, I was like, it doesn't feel right. Like I can't, why would people want to read a book written by her? Like it's weird. I have such bad imposter syndrome. So
Uh,
yeah. And yeah, it's just taken, I'm still working on it. Still working on, um, yeah, trying to not water myself down and just be who I am.
I'm so glad that you're able to share that piece of things today because I'm pretty sure you're talking to every writer that exists out in the world. And you're almost probably also talking to every human who is doing big things in the world. And I know that I I think we think that there will be a place where we get over this imposter syndrome. But what I have found is that the bigger I move in the world, the kind of the worse it gets. Sorry to tell you guys. But
Mm.
it's like you keep coming up against, have y'all read the Big Leap by Gay Hendricks? You come up against your upper limit problem. And of course, it's all in here, right? And I know a lot of you use writing to kind of sort that out. And I hope you keep doing it, because imposter syndrome, I think if I had another mission on the planet, it would be to wipe that out of everybody so that we could all shine and bring our brave words to the world. I'm glad you brought that topic up today. All right, so Pershka, I'm going to stick with you for a minute on this other question, which is really specifically about your tool. And before we go there, to Lori and Perushka, you both, thank you so much for taking this challenge on of this chapter, because I asked you to share that vulnerable story of how you got to doing this thing you're doing in the world today. And you did that so brilliantly. And then in the second part of the chapter are your master teachings and tools. So listeners, get ready for a book that is a master toolkit for writers in almost every subject you could imagine. You're going to have a practical experience that you can go for it and do it and have that experience with it and move forward with all of your dreams and goals. And in Perushka's case, it's going to be about screenwriting, writing a screenplay, right? So Perushka, what is the most important thing you want people to know about doing that for the first time?
I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that authenticity is key in terms of screenwriting. Well, actually, just writing, but screenwriting is because people try and mold things to fit certain standards, and you change things, and you'll get a lot of pushback from people in the industry who want you to make a rom-com the way a rom-com is made, but tell a story the way it was and true to you, and that's how you'll speak to people, because it doesn't matter how good the cinematography is or the acting or um, the lighting or whatever. If the story is amazing, you are going to speak to people. So, and I think that only like authentic, real stories told from like the heart can do that. Not, yes, we have like beats and everything like that, but the story needs to be the focus of your screenplay.
I love that advice. So, so correct me if I'm wrong. I have it written down here, but Perushka wrote a chapter on this topic called "Lights, Camera, Panic: How to Write a Screenplay." And I love what you said just now about that, because I feel the same about even just writing a story. It's like, just write your heart and soul, write your truth, and that specific and personal story is going to be what resonates with people the most. Anything else you want to say about that?
Um, Yeah, I'm thinking of like my experience. I mean, I had to rewrite a screenplay 16 times in a year, because producers are just intense like that. And they're trying to make money. So they're trying to do it in a way that's going that they think an audience will respond. But just the basis of the screenplay needs to be like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to get across? Like that message. And don't ever lose that. Like I eventually like gave up and I was like, these are not the people I'm supposed to work with. It was just unaligned. And having gone from rewriting it 16 times to just going back to the original draft, which was actually, I thought was the best because it was the most real. Yeah.
Yes. 16 times. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's intense. Perushka, thank you for saying yes to this project and for being here to share today.
You're welcome.
So, Lori, back to you for a moment on this specific question about your tool. So, your chapter is Creating Art from Life: How to Mine Your Personal Stories for universal themes. What's the most important thing you want people to know about this topic that you wrote about here?
I think the most important thing is um, to know that theme doesn't have to be a big, scary word. Because when I first started writing for other people, um, editors would say, "Well, what's the theme?" And I'm like, "It's just a story. I don't know what the theme is." And I created this tool because if you answer the 5 basic who, what, when, where, why questions, your theme will emerge. You don't have to figure out what it is before you start writing. And I so identify with what you just said, Parushka, because I just went to a writers' conference where I pitched a novel that I've been working on for a year, and they wanted me to go back to the drawing board, change the characters, change the storyline, write a more dramatic beginning. And I had to go home and sit with all those ideas and kind of discern, well, which ones really are going to move my story forward, the theme that I'm trying to, which is really just the message I'm trying to give people with this story, and which ones really don't matter.
Yeah,
So
my
I think, like you said, being true to your own ideas, your own sense of what is the message I'm trying to share with the world with this story? Why does it matter? That's the most important thing you can do, no matter what kind of writing you're doing.
thanks for sharing about the conference and that experience. That can be so stressful for people. I feel like people walk away with their dreams dashed. And you're so smart, Lori, because however you felt originally, right? We might get a little hit
Mhm.
in our heart about it, but you slowed down and you're like, wait, what can I take and what can I leave?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some good advice, and then there was some advice I just totally disagreed with. So, um, and I think that's the other thing. This is something I just learned. Um, and I learned it from reading Sulika Juad's book, The Alchemy of Story, I think it's called. Anyway, there was a writing prompt in it that said, "What would you write if you weren't afraid?" And I realized that the best stories are the ones you're most afraid to tell.
No doubt about that one. Yes, yes, yes. Oh my goodness. To both of you, Parushka Moodley, Lori Morin, thank you so much for what you do in the world, for being here today to share it with everyone. Um, I hope you all understand that this is way more than a book. We have a very generous community of author experts in their fields and their topics, and they're waiting for you to ask the question that you might have from today. Maybe you need some support. You want to check out what they're up to, all of the programs and offerings. Come on down into the show notes because they're both hooked up with their websites there and their links. So go explore and ask that question, get the support that you need. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of in terms of this community, especially our writing community, is they're very generous teachers. They want to help you move forward. And a special thanks to you, Lori, for being such an integral part of getting our Brave Healer Writer Circle launched and moving in such a positive way. Thank you for all that you put into that with me, for me. We like to come together in community to write. We like to help each other. We like to support and give the feedback and teach and honestly just show up and be accountable together. And so Lori helped me start that program off this year, and I'm very, very grateful to her. So I wanted to give you a quick shout out for that also.
Thank you,
um
Laura. As with everything, I got more from it than I gave. So thank you.
And of course, we want you to go over to Amazon right now and get this book on writing, you guys. Writing, the Brave Healer's Guide for World Changers. We know you have world changing words to share, and you're going to enjoy all of the topics from all of our authors. So go ahead and grab your beautiful copy of the book. And lastly, today, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.